Good evening and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Vincent Pizzulli, attorney to the board. To his left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the planning department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide us with precise, accurate information so we as a board can make decisions based on the facts that you present here tonight. We as a board must, we as a board must consider the 5 following conditions. They're listed here for you. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other means. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse impact or effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will go to the podium where you'll state your name and address for the record and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have 2 adjournments tonight. First case is case 18136, C&S Builders. Is there anyone here for that case? That has been adjourned to February 25th. The next case is case 18220, White Glove. Anyone here for that? You here for that, sir? That has been adjourned also to February 25th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18288. Ed and Kathy Marasevic, 12 Old Indian Head Road, Comac. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Old Indian Head Road and Vance Street. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard on Vance Street from 40 feet to 8 feet for a proposed 24-foot by 38-foot in-ground pool, and from 40 feet to 37 feet for a proposed pool heater and filter.
Good evening.
Good evening. Eddie and Kathy Marasevic, located at 12 Old Indian Head Road, Comac, New York.
Thank you.
And we're here to propose a in-ground pool that we've had an above-ground pool at the property for over 20 years. We did receive a variance at some point because we did a dormer on the house with the pool and everything. We had to do all the fence work and et cetera on the property. As you can see there, the pool is a 24-round pool in the corner of the property. It is a side yard. We're trying to propose a in-ground pool somewhat in the same location. Doesn't have to be exactly where it is, but we'd like it on the side of the property opposed to the back because there's not enough room. We do have a big tree that's not on the survey, that's in the backyard. And there's also proposition for a heater and a filter that would be closer to the house. I think the next picture shows it. Right there, I have a little garden there. That would be close to the house. So that would not be on the side of the property, on the far side of the property,
Be closer to the house itself.
closer to the house.
Yeah. It appears that your property's a little tight,
Yeah.
and this looks like the best place for the pool.
And it's sunny there, too.
Yeah.
Gotta have sun. All right. Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
No,
No, that's the next one.
Next one.
Yeah.
You could present that one, too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18289, Stefan Lasik, 212 4th Street, St. James. The location of the property is the south side of 4th Street, 100 feet east of 4th Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit an accessory structure in the required front yard and to reduce the minimum front yard from 25 feet to 21 feet for a proposed 500-square-foot detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Joe Oliveri. I reside at 39 Morris Avenue, Patchogue, New York.
Just one second, please. Do you have power of attorney?
These are just affidavits of mailing.
Are you the owner, sir, of the property?
No, I'm the applicant.
Oh, you,
What's your relationship to the owner?
I work for the architect.
But you're not the homeowner, and you're not, but you work for his architect?
Right, I work for the architecture firm. What is the error?
The owner has to give you legal permission to present his application in his absence, unless you're an attorney at law.
No,
They're not here, are they?
no.
we'll have to adjourn it. Oh, do you think the applicant can you call the applicant and see if they can come down tonight? Then
Okay.
we'll wait.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had to be here.
Yeah. Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you give them a call, and we'll continue. If the applicant can make it, we'll put you back on. If he can't make it, we'll give you another date, at which time you can either bring the applicant in or get a power of attorney.
So you're not allowed to represent an owner?
No?
Oh, okay,
Not without a power of attorney.
okay. I wasn't aware this is my first variance in this town. I do them all over Long Island, just not here. So, okay,
Do it right here.
Put 'em back. You want to hold it? Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it here.
Same thing? No, no attorney or, if you can get, they can come up and give you permission here, we just need it though.
They can come in and give us us verbal permission. But if they're not physically gonna be here, we need a power of attorney. What's that? What would be the alternative date?
We'll give them, the next week, huh?
Yeah, there's only four, I think the next agenda's kind of light, isn't it?
It is, but I don't know if they'd have enough time to do the,
We'll get,
would they?
we'll put on
No,
the
we
next,
advertised.
Oh, he did, yeah.
yeah.
No, he just has to
Yeah,
post.
next, February 11th.
Yeah, that works. For us, by you.
You can try to get them to come down.
Tell them if they can't make it, it'll be rescheduled for February 11th. Okay?
So you gave me a ring back, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And you don't have to re-advertise.
Just change the date.
That's two cases. Next two.
So we'll move on to case number 18291, Stephanie and Cody Swing, 96 Core Road, Kings Park, the location of the property, the west side of Core Road, 318 feet north of Gilmore Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 100%, which is existing. Reduce the minimum distance from a lot line from 1 foot to 0 for the existing paving. Reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 27 feet, which is existing. The minimum side yard from 12 feet to 2 feet, again existing. And total side yards from 29 feet to 9 feet for begun prior 284 square foot second floor addition to a lawful non-conforming predated second dwelling.
Blaze.
I did?
No, that
I thought
was,
the gentleman said that he was
That's his
also...
application
That was
also.
Caruso?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
My name is Cody Swing. I reside at 96 Core Road, Kings Park.
Would you like these gentlemen to speak on your behalf?
Yes.
Fine. Could you state your name, spell your last name, and give your address, please?
Sure, good evening. My name is Stephen Luise, Luise. My address is 152 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York.
Thomas Plastaris, attorney for the owners. Last name P as in Peter, Lastaras.
Thank you.
I want to bring this to the board's attention before we go forward with our case. I received a letter dated January 22 today, certified, that came from the Department of Environment and Waterways. And basically in the letter said that our application needs to be reviewed by them, and it will not be approved until they give you an approval. So we could proceed with this matter, but they also need to give a permission as well. And I have a copy of that letter. I don't know if you want me to read it into the record, or you'd like a copy of the letter.
We'll just put it into the record.
Dated January 22nd, what was received by Mr. Luise today.
Is the planning department CC'd on that letter?
Yeah, there's probably
Yes.
a copy in the.
Okay, then we will have a copy in the file.
Okay.
I don't know if this is the one. All right, so we'll hear your case, but there'll be no decision until the necessary filings are done.
We understand that, and we would have done more before the hearing had we had known earlier. So I'm here representing the property owners and the architects to get these variances for the existing residence in the back and the driveway, and ultimately the addition to the top of the second dwelling. If you take a look at this house, it was built a long time ago before COs were even given out. So we do have a letter in lieu from the town back from 2016 indicating everything on the property that is legal. So basically, we're coming in here tonight and requesting relief from the back and the side of the rear and the side yard for the driveway. The driveway runs from the edge of the street all the way to the back of the property and stops in front of the second dwelling. That is a similar driveway to all the other homes situated nearby, and it has been there like that since my clients, purchased the house. So we asked for this relief based on several factors here. One, there's not going to be an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood by granting this because it's been existing since 1940s, and it's similar to similar to other houses in the neighborhood. There's no other real method to achieve this because it's existing and there is no other way around that. The requests that we're making aren't substantial considering that the house is existing and it's similarly situated to other properties on the street as well. The proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood because no work would be needing to be done. And the difficulty was self-inflicted when my client decided to put the doghouse, to start the renovations on the roof of the second dwelling, but he's prepared to. We've gone forward, we made the applications, and now we're here today to ask your request so that we can go forward. Tom, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just to give you a little history.
Could you use the microphone, please, sir? so
I'm
we get on the
sorry.
record?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So there's two separate single-family dwellings on this property, and it's been that way since prior to 1947. The rear of the property backs up against Sunken Meadow State Park, so there's no neighbor on that side other than the state, and it's all wooded area, okay? The neighbors to the, if we're looking at Core Road, to the top of the diagram there, I think they can tell you, I think they're here today, right, so they can come. Nothing's been changed to that property that we're aware of that exceeds the existing footprint of the property. There's only two changes that we're seeking a variance in, and that is, there's an expansion, and this survey doesn't show it exactly, but there's an expansion of the driveway as an apron for a car that runs along the side of the garage there. And then on the second floor of that rear dwelling, the roof line was quite steep, and there was an existing bathroom up there, and that was the only room that was there. We're told that the owner of the property, the original owner, worked for the Pilgrim State Hospital, built the house in the rear on his own to live in while he built the main house in the front of the property. And So it was a fairly small, single-family home. That upstairs only had a bathroom. So the proposal is on one side is to raise that roof line, not above the height of the peak of the house, but just raise that up so that you don't have to crouch down like this in the inside on that second floor. And then there's a small 44-foot doghouse that's being put on the other side facing the other direction. So there's really nothing here that changes the existing footprint. It's in character with the neighborhood. The only thing that's been self-created is that expansion of the apron of the concrete and that the doghouse and the raising of that roof line, not above the peak, though. So zoning-wise, it's all in compliance under existing use. We received, Mr. Luisi, who was the attorney for the architect, received this letter from the Waterways Committee, and it's the intention of the owner of the property to do whatever the County of Suffolk requires to be done with the wastewater management. Obviously, it's been working fine all these years. We're doing nothing to this property that would increase the occupancy level or the amount of water being used, or, however, the owner is actually, I think, would join with Suffolk County to look at this, because we just don't know what existing septic systems there are and like, and frankly, he'd like to improve all that, to do whatever the county says they can do. If we can't do something, we will seek a variance from the county, and if we can't do that, we'll seek water credits to handle the situation. But yeah, there's the photo there, okay? That's the existing second-story dwelling. We understand that the original owner's mother lived there in that one. So there's the doghouse on one side facing the opposite direction, and you can go back and see the, yeah, there. You can see how they raised that roof line so that it doesn't go above the peak, but that's the intention there. Yeah, the bathroom was on that side. So you can actually walk in that area now without having to bend over. So that's it, and we'll certainly either, when the board renders a decision, we can hold the decision in abeyance pending, obviously, Suffolk County Department of Health approval, and whatever, anything else the town Environmental and Waterways Department would like to see. Do you have any questions?
Yes. We were there yesterday,
Oh.
looking at it. It appears that most of the neighbors, there's a house, the driveway, and a garage in the back.
Yeah,
They all have garages.
that's right.
This is a residence?
It is. From what we're told, and this is from the son of the owner, his name was, I actually handled the closing about a year ago. His name was Bennett. And he tells us that the story that was related to us was that was a house, a dwelling from the start, okay? Always has been a dwelling. And if you go inside there, I don't know if you looked inside or not, but there is a chimney and a furnace that's quite old, which tells me that if that was just a garage, it wouldn't be heated and it wouldn't have a chimney and everything else in it. So, and in fact, the letter in lieu of, I don't know if you've seen that, but the letter in lieu, which we have here, indicates.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, let me show you this. I have one with the actual stamp on it from here we go. If I can show this.
You, Mr. Paluzzi.
Now, okay, yeah, if you take a look at that, you'll see that the second struck is also.
Sir, can you go back to the
Go ahead, go ahead.
microphone so we get it on the record?
Here's the survey showing. That second structure, which, you know, many people would think just logically, oh, it's a garage, is listed as a dwelling.
Okay.
Okay, if you take a look, Mr.
Pizzuli.
Pizzuli, you'll see that that structure is listed by the town of Smithtown, and as well as the taxes, as a dwelling, and always has been.
It has a separate mailing address, too. doesn't
That's
it?
right, it does. It has a separate
Your
mailing.
house is 96?
96.
And that's 98.
That's 98. Yeah, so the U.S. Postal Service has been delivering mail to that separate residence for quite some time. We obviously didn't apply for that, but
What's
it's.
that, are these extra copies that we can keep for the record, or do you want these back?
Well, that was part of my title search report when we purchased the property, and I think I have extra copies, but if not, I can, but yes, you can certainly
Mr.
keep those.
Mr. Chairman, this does appear to be a letter in lieu. I'd like to see the original, or I'd like to see a copy from the
Should be
building
in the town,
department.
yeah.
Should be in the town records.
Yeah,
But having said that, even though it appears to be a lawful, non-conforming structure, I'm curious to know why the building department in its, and maybe we have a copy of the denial memorandum. It would appear to me, anyway, that your client is altering a lawful non-conforming use, and that would be an additional variance to the ones that have already been advertised. So I might ask you to review that upon adjournment of this hearing tonight.
well, you can see the comments that Mr. White did, the building director.
Let me see that, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it was the town that advised us what variances we needed. And we're following them.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
The town sometimes
No, that's fine.
misses things.
There's
So
no-
We'll correct the record if it needs to be corrected.
That's right, and if we
Okay.
need to ask for a request an additional variance, it's not an issue. I think we would request that additional variance right now. There's nothing that's changing that's different other than what's been shown here.
Well, the only problem with that, Mr. Plesteris, is that if an additional variance is needed, you can't proceed with that unless it's properly advertised.
Okay, that, you're right, you're right. So what we would ask is if it does require an additional variance, that we just have a hearing on that one last issue as opposed to the other ones. That way, we're not going through the whole process.
application, but I can only make suggestions to you, and
Okay.
then, and it's the board, my client, that would decide how they wanted to proceed with this. But my recommendation to you would be to request postponement or an adjournment, ascertain whether you do need an additional variance for the lawful non-conforming use, and then reschedule, once you've advertised if that variance is needed. The board's not going to make a decision tonight because the secret determination has not been filed.
That's right.
So there's no prejudice to you postponing your own hearing.
All right, well, we can actually continue the hearing. How about
do
that?
that, too.
Let's do a continuance of the hearing.
Well, that's up to the chairman, but that's.
Yeah, so maybe we can do a continuance, Mr. Chairman. That way we don't, and if the town building department indicates that an additional variance is, then we'll redisclose and do that and continue this with, you know, what's been placed in the record this evening.
Well, we'll leave the application open. There's a number of people here that,
Continuance is, to me, is the same as an adjournment. It's being done for the purposes of correctly advertising an additional variance. So the new variance, you don't have to re-advertise the variances that have already been, that we're hearing tonight or starting to hear tonight, but you will have to advertise the additional variance, and we'll schedule the hearing for the same date as the adjournment of this hearing.
Okay, so it's your opinion that you'll be ready to, that an additional variance is required?
It appears to me that it is. but
Okay.
you
Why
need-
don't we do
you need-
this? Because it's the chief building official who makes that call. Why doesn't the
I'm
planning
asking him to
department?
go to Mr. White and find out.
I understand that, but I think that should just be a matter of course. It'd have nothing to do with this evening, that we can go and find that out, and if it turns out that it is, we could just reopen.
Yeah.
Because it's his call, no matter what we say, so.
Just for the record? Under the zoning ordinance, 322, Section 74A and B, talks about non-conforming structures and non-conforming lots. Mr. Pizzuli is correct in the fact that you have a lawful non-conforming structure which is being expanded, which would require another variance.
Correct.
And Mr. Tanzi, not to be contrary, but the applicant has to redo his application to request the additional variance, get an additional denial from Mr. White. So it would be incumbent upon him to do that paperwork and then advise the board if the additional variance is needed before the next hearing occurs.
Correct.
But we're not obligated to
So-
do that for him.
I guess what I would want to know is, are we going to proceed now, or are we going to wait until then?
Well, I think they've pretty much concluded their presentation for this evening, unless you want to add more to what you've already submitted. But you're adjourning the hearing, are you not, sir?
Yes, I think, yeah,
Okay.
we have to adjourn it anyway.
So then, Mr. Tanzi is asking you, do you want to continue your presentation this evening or reserve it until the next hearing?
I think we'll reserve it to the next
Thank you.
hearing. Yeah.
Good
I just had a question for you
Yes.
that you can think about before. One of the things that the town tries to do, and I believe it's actually part of the ordinance, is that when we do have, or the town has, a pre-existing non-conforming, an expansion of it is really frowned upon, because it's something that you have that you wouldn't have under current zoning. So to expand it is kind of not well received. That being said, from time to time, applicants do ask this board for that relief, and then we would look at the case itself. And when you have a structure like this that is so close to the property line that you are expanding that does impact that adjacent neighbor,
Yes.
you want to be very careful about how you're doing that. And I, for one, you might want to think about other possibilities than going what appears to be 2 stories on that property line, because that's kind of one of the hot buttons that really impacts people.
Mr. Tanzi is giving you good
I think
suggestions and
that's
tips, but let me just say this, he's not prejudging their application, he's just making suggestions to you.
Just because if you come back and then we bring it up and then all of a sudden it,
No, these are all things that the client's going to need to consider, okay? And it may be that they either decide to abandon that, okay, and remove that from the proposed construction, or they modify it in a different way. But we'll have to lay that out to the client, they'll make a decision, and so let's say, so you're saying that any change to that roof line?
no, I'm just trying to give you history that this board
Okay.
has had. And since you are coming back and the case is staying open.
Right.
Rather than go through this then, just think about options that may make your case
Sure.
more compelling.
Which is something you're obligated to do under the criteria.
That's right.
You're supposed to demonstrate to the board that there's no feasible alternative.
That's
But you have every right to make an application for a variance for the entire relief you're requesting. Mr. Tanzi is suggesting that you look at all your alternatives.
Yes, understood.
Thank you. And you want these originals back?
Yeah, if I could, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's staying open.
Should we let the people speak?
Yeah.
If you're seeking an, if you're seeking an adjournment, it'll be March 10th, the earliest we can get you on. Now, I know there's a number of people here that would like to speak on this. Would you like to speak tonight, or you want to wait until the 10th and do it all then? It's up to you. All right, come up then.
Yes, you do.
I'll just take it.
We do.
Okay, you do, okay, this is just another picture.
Yeah,
Okay, we have that whole,
We have everything.
your wife sent it in. Yeah. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Seth Bluestein, I live at 100 Core Road. On the other side,
Could you spell your last name, please?
oh, sure, Bluestein. Seth, S-E-T-H. So I live at 100 Core Road, which is the other side of the fence. And if you looked at my pictures, you'll see how invasive this structure is. Every window in my house can be seen from that structure into my bedroom, every room. The last picture I showed you is how close the property line is. That's a picture from my car. And that's pretty much it, and also the devaluation of my property. It's just ridiculous. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? No. Again, case 18291, Stephanie and Cody Schwing has been adjourned to March 10th. You have your, clients are here? All right,
Can I have all the others?
First ones or the second ones?
yeah. We'll go.
I need all these things.
These?
Yeah.
I just want to know which one it is.
How about that?
Take that.
I'm giving you all these things now. Wait a minute, wait a minute. All right. Which one is this now?
Caruso?
Is this?
Third one?
Which one?
18290.
This is Caruso? No, it isn't.
That's what they say. Is it 289?
8-9.
Are you proceeding, which one are you proceeding? 290, that's correct.
290 you're doing? But this is not 290.
Then we did. Blaze? I think we did skip one.
This one is 290. He's doing, this is 289. We need 290. He's doing Caruso.
What about him?
That's him, he has both.
Oh, he has both.
Yeah.
I have both, and I got one of the clients to come
So
here
you're
tonight.
doing Caruso.
So I'm gonna do Caruso
All
because
right,
he
so
made
this
it
goes back.
Okay, my mistake. Well,
No,
you
it's
might
my
as well
fault, all the confusion is my fault, I apologize.
hold on to it, because you're gonna do it next.
No, he's, the other guy's not coming. The other guy's
Oh,
not coming.
okay, stop coming. Yes, you are.
That's all right.
It's a learning experience. There you go.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on to that case, do you want to assign an adjourn date to 18289?
I thought we did February 11th.
Oh, we did?
I don't think we
We
did.
suggested it. Is that-
Yeah.
February 11th?
February 11th.
Okay,
You said we don't have to re-advertise, right?
Correct.
So we show up that night with the right guy
you got to post a new sign
February 11th.
for February 11th.
No, you don't have to post. For an adjournment. Property outside the hearing, and we're adjourning. Unnecessary.
So just come back.
Correct.
February 11th.
Correct.
You have to post a sign.
You have to post a sign.
Mailing. You have the mail have to post.
It's been legally advertised with a sign and an affidavit.
Post a sign, the new date.
All right, far be it from me to bring us into the 21st century. Put a new sign up.
Put a new sign up?
Yes.
You can change the date on this.
We just changed the date.
I'll scribble it out.
New date.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next case on the agenda, case number 18290, Vincent Caruso, 21 Fulton Boulevard, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Fulton Boulevard, 345 feet east of Kings Park Road. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to decrease the minimum setback of a 2-foot retaining wall from the property line from 3 feet to 0. That would be for Wall C. And decrease the minimum setback of a 4-foot retaining wall from the property line from 4 feet to 0 for Wall D. And we-
And now where's the applicant?
Is Mr. Caruso here? Could you come up, please, sir? Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Vincent Caruso, 21 Fulton Boulevard, Comac, New York.
And you would like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you state your name, spell your last name for the record, and your address, please?
Absolutely. Joseph Oliveri, the last name Olivieri, and the address 39 Morris Avenue, Patchogue.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here representing Vinnie Caruso, 21 Fulton Boulevard. We are asking for a variance for two existing retaining walls that are adjacent to the property line. They're at a 0-foot setback. We believe that these retaining walls were actually built with the house because the grading of the property is so steep, they would have been required in order to actually have a flat spot for the home. They look like they've been there, again, the full age of it. Is this better? Okay, so we believe that these retaining walls have been existing since the house was constructed. And we believe that they were required in order to get a level surface to build the original house on, but the retaining walls are not listed in the CO and they were not previously approved. And that's it. We seek permission to maintain them where they are.
All right. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on the application? Planning?
No, thank you.
No? Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's that?
See you on the 11th.
With all the paperwork signed, right?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure I had the right one. The next case on the agenda, case number 1292, Christina Bruno, 67 South Avenue, Smithtown. The location of the property is the northeast corner of South Avenue and West Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive land to be altered where depth of groundwater is equal to or less than 10 feet for a proposed 20-foot by 40-foot in-ground swimming pool.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And you are?
I am Christina Bruno, and I live at 67 South Avenue, Smithtown.
And would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
Fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Good evening, Michael Truehart, Truehart, 17 East Deer Park Road, Dix Hills, New York. I am the swimming pool contractor, and we are here because we're requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive land to be altered where the depth of the groundwater is greater or equal or less than 10 feet to a proposed swimming pool. So, as per the town's requirement, we had a test hole done, and the groundwater exists at approximately 5 feet below the grass level, and we want to make the pool 6 feet deep. So we're going to need to temporarily pump some groundwater away for a day or so while we're working on the swimming pool, which is quite common. We're going to dewater, correct. So we only, if you're not familiar with swimming pool construction, I'll give you a very brief overview, but the perimeter walls, it's going to be a vinyl line pool. So we're going to excavate and not dig out the deep end initially. We're going to install the perimeter walls, which will be poured concrete, steps, benches. We're going to do our plumbing. We're going to backfill everything. And then we're going to, in a very quick event, We're going to excavate to the final 6-foot depth while we pump some groundwater, install a liner, fill it up very quickly, and disconnect the pumps. That's kind of how it's.
Use like a well point system?
Sometimes, there's a couple of ways of doing it. Sometimes it's well points. In this particular case, it'll probably be a gravel bed underneath the very bottom of the pool with some, what we call weep lines, or basically pipes with holes drilled in them, and probably one small electric pump operating just to control the water at that level.
And the water will be pumped onto the street?
We try and keep it on the owner's property when possible, otherwise into a storm drain if that's not possible.
It's required to be pumped into your.
Yeah, just making sure it wasn't going to go on the neighbor's property.
Yeah, it won't go in the neighbor's yard, I assure you.
It goes the same place as the backflow goes from the pool. It's going to go into a drainage.
Correct.
Anyone on the board have any questions on the application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next case on the agenda, case number 18293, Jeffrey and Kara Lauber, 15 Abbott Road, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Abbott Road, 610 feet east of Knoll Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the height of a proposed retaining wall from 6 feet to 10 feet, to permit a 4-foot fence to be 0 feet from the top of a retaining wall, to decrease the minimum setback of a 7-foot retaining wall from the property line from 7 feet to 0 for Wall A, decrease the minimum setback of a 10-foot retaining wall from the property line from 10 feet to 1 foot for Wall B, decrease the minimum setback of an 8-foot retaining wall, excuse me, from the property line from 8 feet to 1 foot for Wall C.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Lauber. I reside at 15 Abbott Road in Smithtown. I'm proposing to build this wall as a means of making my backyard safer and more level for my children and putting up a fence. I hired an engineer to assist me in coming up with the most practical plan to accomplish this.
The fence is going to be on top of the retaining wall?
Yeah, the type of wall that we're putting in, when they put the wall in, there'll be sleeves for the fence posts, so they'll be, that's what I mean by on top of the wall, by like,
Okay. All right. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No? Planning?
Just a couple of comments. First, I'm assuming that the height of the wall at 10 feet would be visible above the existing PVC fencing that's on the site, which I believe is your neighbor's.
yes, that neighbor, as the fence goes down, it's really about 9.3 feet, the height of the wall, possibly less, depending on how we grade the yard. But the wall, there's a 6-foot fence, and the wall tapers down. You'll probably see about 3 feet of the top of the wall in that corner. I have reviewed the plans with all my neighbors, and we're using, attractive decorative block, and yeah, they were okay with it.
And the only other thing is that, I guess primarily in this corner here, the picture that's up on the screen, in seeing the top of the retaining wall, you would see the fence on top of the retaining wall. So I guess in theory, you're looking at something that's approximately 9 feet tall in that corner. That's it.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18294, Perry and Carolyn Molina, 3 Fieldstone Court, Kings Park. The location of the property, the north side of Fieldstone Court, 76 feet west of Core Road. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to permit an accessory structure in the front yard and to reduce the front yard on Core Road from 45 feet to 30 feet for a proposed 18-foot by 36-foot in-ground pool, and from 45 feet to 20 feet for related pool equipment.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I am Perry Molina, property owner at 3 Fieldstone Court, Kings Park. We stand here tonight,
And you would like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
and I would like Mr. Trueheart to speak on my behalf.
Thank you very much. You can sit down if you'd like, sir.
Good evening again, members of the board. Michael Trueheart, Truehart, 17 East Deer Park Road, Dix Hills, New York. I'm here for Mr. Molina requesting a variance for front yard setback for proposed structures, which is an in-ground swimming pool and pool equipment, where 45 feet is required, and we're asking for 30 feet for the pool and 20 feet for the pool equipment. We have spoken with the immediate neighbors, the adjoining neighbors, and have letters of non-objection, which I just handed to the board. We certainly do not believe it's a very substantial request, as it's an in-ground pool. There'll be literally no view. If you've taken a ride by the street on Core Road, the street is probably 10 feet or more lower than the subject property. So no one will be able to see the pool from the street for sure. And I think we have it placed in a reasonably good area on the property for where we can. It's a new construction flag lot, and there wasn't a lot of options on where to place a pool here.
And the reduction to 30 feet is only in one corner of the pool.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18295, Richard Gochis, 22 Sioux Drive, Comac. The location of the property, the southwest corner of Sioux Drive and Mohegan Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the front yard on Mohegan Lane from 10 feet to 0 for an existing 6-foot fence. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Richard Gatchis, Goetchius. I live at 22 Sioux Drive in Comac.
And you would like this young lady to speak on your behalf?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi there. My name is Nancy Lang. My address is 31 Park Ridge Circle in Port Jeff Station.
Just spell your last name for the record so we have it correct.
Lang, L-A-N-G-E.
Thank you.
So tonight, we're here seeking a favorable decision for an existing 6-foot fence in the required front yard and at the lot line on the Mohegan side yard. The family purchased the home in 2009 with the fence in place, and soon after, they changed the old stockade fence to the current PVC fence. Being new homeowners, they were unaware that there were specific codes for the height and location of the said fencing. The fence has been in the same position for many years, and the photos that I've submitted show that there's no site limitations to any traffic to or from Sioux Drive or Mohegan Lane. I also submitted photos that show similar fencing and heights and setbacks in the area. And we're not really aware if their homes have come before the board asking for similar relief, although it does support that it's common and typical to the neighborhood and area. The homeowner's main concern with keeping this fence where it's at is that there's a constant issue with teens parking along this Mohegan Lane side yard, hanging out, and behind his property is the Lilco right-of-way, and teenagers also hang out there. He's put down some rocks on that side yard to cause noise when walking over, just to deter the kids from hanging out there and throwing glass bottles, which they're constantly picking up. And to make this fence to conform to the codes for the 4-foot height and the 10-foot setbacks would be taking a large amount of their backyard privacy away, and more concerning would be increasing the square footage on that side yard and giving the teens more room to sit and hang out, which he's not too happy about. So the proposed in-ground pool that we had planned, which prompted this application, is located in the west rear corner, and the east side of this yard will allow room for their picnic table area and playground and green space for their small children to play safely away from the pool area. And it also allows that they have some mature trees on that side and to keep those trees in place as well. So these are the reasons that we're respectfully asking for this minor setback variance to be granted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
Planning?
Mr. Chairman, just to let the other board members know, we did do a site inspection on Monday morning of the property. It does appear that the applicant has difficulty in being able to move the fence back because there are very mature trees in the backyard directly behind the fence. Additionally, we did notice that directly across the street on the southeast corner, there is a similar condition of the neighbor having a fence on the front yard with the PVC fence along Mohegan, so it wouldn't be out of character.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
You're it. That's funny.
You tried. You did? Hey, congratulations.
Yeah. And you're not doing a pool, huh?
No. My client texted me yesterday at the last minute. He had a back injury and he couldn't attend tonight. I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? He can't go out to sign an affidavit. Thanks God that one of the things that I hadn't signed when I started the application was a limited power of attorney.
What luck. All right. The next case on the agenda, case number 1-18201, George Diffendale, 5 Cedarfield Terrace, St. James. The location of the property, the south side of the south side of Cedarfield Terrace, 237 feet east of Ashley Drive. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 24 feet to 9 feet, reduce total side yards from 60 feet to 45 feet, increase the maximum permitted square footage of an accessory structure from 750 to 900 square feet for an existing cabana.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am Sharon O'Brien. My last name is spelled capital O, capital B, R-I-E-N. I live at 54 Miller Place, Middle Island Road, Mount Sinai, New York. I am before you this evening on behalf of George Diffendale, the homeowner of the resident at 5 Cedarfield Terrace in St. James. I have submitted to council a limited power of attorney since George was unable to attend tonight because of a back injury. I have also submitted the required return receipt mailing. I am before you this evening seeking permission to maintain a pool house/cabana located on the east side of the subject property, which is a through lot. The board can see the configuration of the lot, which is narrow along Cedarfield Terrace and flanges out towards the rear, fronting on 25A, which is also called North Country Road. There is a restricted area of 50 feet that extends from 25A running into the interior of the property. As you can see from the survey, the house was constructed on an angle. The swimming pool, which we have a permit for, permit number 190498, is located behind the house on an angle also. The placement of the pool house/cabana was positioned in a way that it was in a convenient location for use of the pool and would also allow sufficient area for the children. Addressing the square footage of the 900 square feet, 254 square feet of that area is used for storage. In fact, the family uses that area to park the cars at times. So the actual pool house is only 646 square feet, which is a permitted square footage. I have provided the board, or I'd like to provide the board, with pictures of the large evergreens.
Thank you.
The large evergreens that have been planted along the east property line to secure the privacy of the neighbor to the east. I also provided pictures of the mature trees on the neighbor's property to the east, showing more of a buffer between the two properties. The relief requested of 9.3 feet to the east property line is a substantial request, and we acknowledge that this situation was self-created. The structure is extremely well-built. The homeowner spent approximately $130,000 in construction cost and landscaping, so it would be a tremendous financial hardship to have it demolished. We feel by maintaining the structure as it stands, we are not creating a hazardous situation. We are not in an environmentally sensitive area, and we are not adversely impacting the environment or the neighborhood. If the board has any questions.
It appears that there's a shed and something gazebo on the neighbor's property to the west?
No,
That's-
sir, they're all been removed. I
That's-
have a
no,
current
it's-
survey.
That's
that-
the question. It's being removed?
It has been.
Oh, it has been removed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the fence, the stockade fence, is that? I'm confused. It looks like it's on the neighbor's property.
It is.
It is?
On that survey, it is, yes.
Yeah.
So this is an updated survey that will show on this side of the property. This
Yeah.
is his fence that will have to be
Right.
relocated back on his property.
Right.
But the gazebo.
Could you just go back to the, so we get it on the record? Right, so the fence encroaches on the neighbor's property.
Which will
On the
move back.
west side?
Yes, sir. We will move that back on our property line.
Okay, you're going to move it
Yes,
back.
sir.
So we can make a condition that the fence gets moved back?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. Anyone else on the board have any questions?
No question.
No? Planning?
Just to refresh the board's memory about this application, because it's been adjourned for a while. Excuse me. When it came before the board the first time, there was some concern from the board members regarding the encroachments. And I believe one of the comments that the board had made at that time was that they wanted to see the encroachments removed before they would make a determination on the application. I believe at that time, you had told Ms. O'Brien that you'd like to see an updated survey showing all of the encroachments being removed. It sounds to me like the fence is still in question?
Correct.
Okay. So, just for the board's recollection.
If
I bring that up only because there was a concern from the next-door neighbor who did come into the planning department and was concerned about the encroachments because they were rather substantial onto her property.
If I just quick clarify, this is the first time I've been in front of the board. We've adjourned it several times, like Blaze has indicated, but I was not in front of the board before. This is
You-
my first time doing
Okay.
this application in front of you.
Do you have any idea when the applicant plans on moving the fence?
He will do it as soon as his back will allow him to have it done. Right now, he's in severe pain. So he'll call the fence company and have it done right away. I can assure you of that.
Well, in addition to assuring us,
Yes, sir.
and the board hasn't made a decision, but if the board were to attach conditions to any approval, the condition will say that the fence has to be removed, and it will also say that your client will not obtain a certificate of occupancy for any of these structures unless it is removed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right,
Yes, sir. I'm sure he won't have a problem with that.
all right, thank you. Anything else, please? Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. And that concludes our hearing for tonight.